1st Armored Division has a long and rich history to commitment to the civic and military values for which Old Ironsides has been renowned for half a century. They activated at Fort Knox on July 15, 1945, under the command of Major General Bruce R. Magruder. Now, while he mulled over the issue of coming up with a name for the new division, he glanced at a painting of the USS Constitution. Now, he bought that painting during a fundraising drive to preserve the famous fighting ship, and from the painting, he noted the nickname Old Ironsides. Impressed by the parallel between the early development of the tank and the Navy's spirit of daring and durability, he decided the 1st Armored Division should also be named Old Ironsides. Today, the famous warship of the Navy and the 1st Armored Division of the United States Army are historically and appropriately welded together by name. The distinctive insignia of the 1st Armored Division is drawn in bold colors. It's designed from the triangular coat of arms of the American World War II Tank Corps. The yellow, blue, and red colors represent the combined arms nature of the Armored Division: armor, infantry, and artillery. With only a few years under their belt as a division, Old Ironsides began intensive training as World War II became a reality for the United States.
In 3 columns, we advanced towards Tunis and Bizerte, and still the enemy poured into Africa.
They would get battle-tested in North Africa as a part of Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of French Northwest Africa, November 8, 1942. Old Ironsides became the first American armored division to see combat. Although they encountered unexpectedly heavy Vichy French opposition, the Allied invasion force suppressed all resistance in the beachhead within 3 days. January 1943 found the division under the command of 2 corps. Old Ironsides received the mission of defending central Tunisia against an Axis counterattack. A month later, the 1st Armored Division collided with a superior German armored force at Kasserine Pass. Sustaining heavy personnel and equipment losses, Old Ironsides withdrew, battered but wiser. Outrunning his supply lines and facing stiffening Allied resistance, Rommel's advance ground to a halt. Regardless, 3 more months of fierce fighting followed before the Allies could finally claim victory in North Africa. Old Ironsides would receive the next test in Italy. The fall of Sicily in the summer of 1943 cleared the way for an Allied invasion of the Italian mainland. As part of General Mark Clark's 5th Army, the 1st Armored Division crushed enemy resistance in an assault landing at Salerno on September 9th and led the drive to Naples. The city fell on October 1st, and the Allies pressed on to Volturno River. In November, the 1st Armored Division attacked the infamous Winter Line. Although they breached the line, the Allied advance came to a halt in the mountainous country near Cassino. To break the stalemate, the Allies made an amphibious assault well behind enemy lines at Anzio on January 23, 1944. Beating back repeated German counterattacks, the 1st Armored Division led the Allied breakout from the beachhead on May 23rd and spearheaded the drive to Rome, liberating the city on June 4th. The 1st Armored Division continued its pursuit of the enemy to the North Apennines, where the Germans made their last stand. In June, the 1st Armored Division transferred to Germany to serve as part of the Allied occupation forces. Old Ironsides left several of their units behind as they headed back to the States for inactivation at Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. As part of the Korean War buildup of American forces, the 1st Armored Division reactivated at Fort Hood, Texas on March 7, 1951. Training for nuclear war became a major theme in the mid-1950s. The 1st Armored Division participated in tests of the Atomic Field Army at Fort Hood and the largest joint maneuver conducted since World War II with Operation Sagebrush. After completing their training in February of 1946, the 1st Armored Division moved to its new home at Fort Polk, Louisiana. In 1962, the division came back to full strength and reorganized. Brigades replaced combat commands, and the division's aviation assets doubled.
The waterfront in Havana and along other parts of the coast bristled with gun emplacements as the Cuban regime waited to see what their bosses in the Kremlin were to do. Cuba became the focus of world attention. Here centered the most critical threat of global war since the surrender of Germany 17 years ago.
After intense training, the 1st Armored Division is declared combat ready in October 1962, just in time for the Cuban Missile Crisis. Old Ironsides deployed from Fort Hood, Texas to Fort Stewart, Georgia. And for the next 6 weeks, the 1st Armored Division conducted live fire training and amphibious exercises on the Georgia and Florida coasts. Shortly thereafter, tensions eased and the 1st Armored Division returned to Fort Hood. Although the 1st Armored Division did not participate as a division in the Vietnam War, 2 units, Company A, 501st Aviation, and 1st Squadron, 1st Cavalry, served with distinction. Neither unit was officially detached from the 1st Armored Division, and veterans of both units were authorized to wear the Old Ironsides as a combat patch.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place.
1968 was a crisis-filled year of domestic unrest. After the assassination of Martin Luther King, several inner cities exploded into violence. The 3rd Brigade, 1st Armored Division, deployed to Chicago to assist in restoring order.
Let me now turn to our program for the future. We have adopted a plan which we have worked out in cooperation with the South Vietnamese for the complete withdrawal of all U.S. combat ground forces and their replacement by South Vietnamese forces on an orderly, scheduled timetable.
The early 1970s brought the withdrawal of American forces from Vietnam and a major restructuring of the Army. Old Ironsides was rumored to be on the list of units to be inactivated. Veterans of the division organized a letter-writing campaign to save the 1st Armored Division. Their efforts were rewarded on May 10, 1971. The 1st Armored Division left its home at Fort Hood, Texas, to replace the 4th Armored Division in Germany. There, Old Ironsides marched into its second half-century, celebrating victory in the Cold War. This triumph was symbolized by the fall of the Berlin Wall, the unification of Germany, and the crumbling of East European communist regimes.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
The 1st Armored Division was called upon to meet a new challenge in November 1990. It was alerted for deployment to the Middle East in response to the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. In less than 2 months, the division moved 17,400 soldiers and 7,050 pieces of equipment by rail, sea, and air to Saudi Arabia for Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. On February 24, 1991, the 1st Armored Division crossed into Iraq, leading 7 Corps' main flanking attack. Its mission was to destroy the elite Iraqi Republican Guards divisions. In an 89-hour blitz across the desert, Old Ironsides traveled 250 kilometers, destroyed 768 tanks, APCs, artillery pieces, and captured 1,064 prisoners of war.
Today we were alerted early this morning that there would possibly be some EPWs in the area. We went to the location, which is this location right here. The capturing unit initially took care of the EPW situation. As you can see, they built a holding area for them. They initially processed the EPWs before we came onto the site. Once the task forces moved in, these EPWs, they surrendered.
Old Ironsides marked its successful return to Germany on May 8, 1991, when Major General Griffith uncased the division colors in Ansbach. The 1st Armored Division celebrated its triumph with a visit from the Vice President of the United States and attendance at victory parades in Washington, D.C. and New York City. On December 14, 1995, the 1st Armored Division was ordered to Bosnia as part of Operation Joint Endeavor. This task force, known as Task Force Eagle, assumed control of its area of responsibility during a transfer of authority ceremony with United Nations forces at Eagle Base Tulsa on December 20, 1995. After the historic bridging of the Sava River on December 31st, the Old Ironsides Division with supporting forces from 5th Corps was joined by Nordic Polish, Turkish, and Russian brigades. Task Force Eagle, one of the most powerful military formations ever fielded, enforced the ceasefire, supervised the marking of boundaries and the zone separation between the former warring factions, enforced withdrawal of the combatants, and the movement of the heavy weapons to designated storage sites. Task Force Eagle also supported the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe's efforts to administer the country's first ever democratic national elections. The division again answered the nation's call to duty March 4, 2003, when it received orders to deploy to the U.S. Central Command Area of Responsibility in support of the global war on terrorism. The 1st Armored Division and its associated task force marked some major firsts during the 15-month-long mission. For soldiers of the 1st Armored Division, this was the longest deployment of any division in Iraq. The 1st Armored Division was the largest division-based task force in U.S. Army history up to that point. At its height, more than 39,000 soldiers were part of the task force. They secured some of Baghdad's roughest neighborhoods and brought stability to the city and its surrounding countryside. After only 8 months back in the States, the division's 3rd Brigade deployed to the Iraqi theater once again. They were attached to the 3rd Infantry Division and were the major unit involved with Task Force Baghdad. After months of intensive training, the division's 1st Brigade deployed again to Iraq in January 2006. September 2007, the 1st Armored Division headquarters deployed to Iraq and assumed command of Multinational Division North. They tackled numerous complex problem sets in northern Iraq by applying both lethal and non-lethal means. In April 2008, the 2nd Brigade Combat Team out of Baumholder, Germany, deployed to Iraq for 14 months of combat operations. They returned to Germany to case their colors and reflag as the 170th Brigade Combat Team. This change signified the start of the brigade's move to Fort Bliss, Texas. May 2009, the 4th Heavy Brigade Combat Team deployed to southern Iraq, this time with a new mission as an Advise and Assist Brigade. Their focus for this tour is training the Iraqi security forces. The division's headquarters headed back to Iraq in November to serve as United States Division Center in Baghdad.
In recent months, the Iraqi military secured an election, killed or captured most of al-Qaeda in Iraq and most of their leaders, and made significant inroads against other terrorist groups. Because of their competence, we have over the past year, and it's been over the past years, the General will tell you and you all know, been able to transfer thousands of square miles of territory and hundreds of bases to Iraqi control.
September 1, 2010 marked another chapter in the history of the 1st Armored Division. Operation New Dawn signified the end of U.S. combat operations in Iraq. Old Ironside's role changed to advising and assisting the Iraqi security forces and the government of Iraq.
And so to the men and women of the 1st Armored Division, you should be very proud of your historic service while you have been here in this country.
The 1st Armored Division will close the historic chapter in Germany as they return to make the final preparations to case their colors and move the division back to the United States at their new home at Fort Bliss, Texas.